Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're headed to Gwinnett County.
Oh, Gwinnett County.
Where,
always something going on.
Yeah, they always seem to be making headlines. And today we've got political drama,
Oh, yeah.
Facebook feuds, and
Yeah, the good stuff.
transit troubles.
Yeah.
All brewing at once, so
This will be fun.
buckle up. This one's a
doozy.
doozy for sure. But what I find interesting about this particular case is that it all started with like a really simple email request.
Right.
And it just like blew up into this whole
out of control
thing about political scheming and hidden agendas.
Yeah. And it really speaks to like the power of perception.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in like our world of like hyper-connected social media.
Social media. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And speaking of social media, we've got a stack
Oh, we do.
of Facebook posts and comments. And these aren't just like
Your average.
like happy birthday posts.
Exactly.
We're talking like
Fireworks.
direct call-outs, accusations of like lying, even some like
Shady insinuations.
shady about elected officials. Yeah, it's good stuff. And then on top of that, we've got some official Gwinnett County documents
Exactly.
that really paint a different picture of what happened.
Totally different. Totally different.
So let's break down
Let's get into it.
this Gwinnett drama, starting with the key players here.
Right.
We've got Lindsay Paul, who is an admin for the Keep Mulberry Great
Keep Mulberry Great. I love it.
Facebook group. And then we have Matthew Holtkamp.
Sounds familiar.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, you'll see why his name sounds familiar in a second.
All right, good.
So Matthew sent an email to Gwinnett County
Okay.
just asking for some voter data.
That seems pretty standard.
Pretty standard request, right?
Especially if you're involved in local politics.
Especially if you're involved in local politics.
Mm-hmm.
But Lindsay Paul saw this as something
Much more.
much more sinister. She interpreted this as like a direct attempt to unseat state representative
Oh, whoa.
Chuck Effistration.
Okay. Big jump.
Big jump. And she did not hold back
Oh, no.
on Facebook.
Publicly.
Oh, yeah. She made a public post, even tagged Chuck Effistration directly.
Wow.
Like implying that Matthew was part of this big scheme
Oh, my goodness.
to like undermine him.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
For an email?
It's a lot for just an email. It's like she saw
I was going to say smoke.
a puff of smoke
There it is.
and immediately yelled fire
Without checking.
without even checking for flames.
For the actual flames.
Yeah. Well, that's where things get really interesting.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
Because Matthew, in his own Facebook comments, clearly states his intention. He's just saying that he's trying to help
Okay.
potential city council candidates
That makes sense.
by like understanding how many voters they would need to engage with, right?
Yeah.
He even specifically mentions that the community is blessed to have Representative Effistration serving them.
Okay, so like clearly
Seems like
no ill will.
no ill will. You would think
You think that would be it.
that would clear things up.
But no.
Lindsay was not buying it.
Oh, Lindsay.
She basically accused Matthew of lying
Oh, my.
and like twisting his words
Oh, wow.
to fit her own narrative.
So she's got a conclusion in mind.
It seems like it.
And she's just
And-
finding the evidence
Yeah.
to support it instead of looking at it objectively.
Right. And the thing is, like,
Yeah.
Chuck Effistration,
He's a pretty big name.
he is the
Like a big player.
he's the House Majority Leader.
Oh, wow.
So trying to unseat someone with that
That much power.
much political clout
That seems like a stretch.
seems a little far-fetched, don't you think?
Yeah, that's a big leap.
So it really does raise questions
I'm
about
just going to say Lindsay's motives.
Lindsay's motives here,
Yeah.
right? Like, was this a genuine misunderstanding fueled by like
Political anxiety.
political anxieties, right? Or was this just,
A way to stir the pot.
a deliberate attempt to create drama and sow discord?
That's what we got to figure out.
That's what we need to unpack. And it gets even more complicated
Oh, no.
when you bring in
Who else?
Ashley Leachman Effistration,
And who is that?
who is Chuck's wife,
Okay.
who also jumped into the Facebook
Oh, boy. Here we go.
fray
Family drama.
with her own comments.
Yeah.
And Ashley did not hold back either.
Oh, no.
She called Matthew's request disgusting and gross, and even accused Gwinnett County leaders of being more interested in lining their pockets than like
Serving the people?
serving their community.
Wow.
So we've got misinterpretations, accusations, and a whole lot of anger.
And it all stemmed from just asking for
Voter data.
an email for voter data.
Yeah. It really is just like
I think it's a great example of how a single piece of information can be perceived in totally different ways.
Oh, for sure.
Think of that like classic image, the Drepack image. You know, some people see a young woman, some people see the old lady.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Same image, different interpretations.
Okay, so in this case, the image is...
The image is the email.
Is the email.
Okay.
Lindsay sees it as...
A threat.
A threat.
Some kind of attack.
Right, whereas Matthew's just like, hey, I'm just trying to
hello.
help people out.
Yeah.
Get the lay of the land.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Be informed.
And how each of them interprets that image could tell us more about them than about what the email actually says.
Yeah, it's almost like
projecting their own
biases onto this request.
Exactly.
So is Lindsay's reaction just like a case of her
seeing ghosts?
Yeah,
there are none.
Where there are none.
Or is there something more, there's something a little more calculated?
Yeah. Like what is her game here?
Her game. And to really understand that, we need to look at the broader context.
Okay, yeah. Of Gwinnett County politics.
All right.
And specifically, the whole debate that's going on about
the transit referendum.
Which is the source of
Facebook rants.
Endless debates, Facebook rants, and accusations of billion-dollar...
Tax burdens. Billion-dollar tax burdens.
Tax burdens.
Yes.
Classic.
And where we also see... some familiar faces popping up in the comments section.
Let's hear it.
Including Lindsay Paul and a photo of a very lonely bus.
Okay, before we dive into that bus ride, let's pause here for a second. We'll be right back to explore
the transit drama.
This transit drama and how it all connects back to
this whole email
sauce.
Saga.
Exactly. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here.
Okay.
And talk about the Gwinnett transit situation.
Right.
And how it connects back to Lindsay and Matthew.
Okay.
So remember Bobby Howard?
Oh, yeah, Bobby Howard.
She's running for the Gwinnett County District 3 Commissioner. And he's not a big fan of the proposed transit referendum.
He is not, I remember. He's the one who posted that picture
of
himself on a very empty Classic County bus.
Iconic image.
Talk about a visual metaphor.
It really is.
Right. It's powerful.
His caption reads...
Let's hear it.
Empty buses don't deserve a 30-plus year tax increase.
30 years.
Of 1%.
Wow.
There has to be a better way to address Gwinnett's transportation challenges than adding a $17 billion tax burden on our citizens.
With a B.
With a B.
Yeah.
You can practically hear the
dramatic music.
The dramatic music playing in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
For sure.
It's a pretty effective tactic, honestly.
Yeah.
That image of the empty bus.
Oh, yeah.
Really tugs at people's heartstrings and makes them think.
Makes you think.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why are we throwing money at this system that nobody's using?
Why? Yeah. Good question.
Right.
But here's the thing. It's a little misleading because first that 1% sales tax would fund a whole bunch of...
Not just the buses.
Projects. Not just the buses.
Right.
So we're talking microtransit expansion, a ride to the airport.
Okay.
Bus, rapid transit lines, and even new transit facilities.
Okay, so it's not just about adding more buses to already empty routes.
No.
There's a bigger picture here.
It's a whole system.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These are all projects designed to
help with traffic.
Address Gwinnett's traffic problems.
The very problems that Bobby Howard is campaigning on.
Right. The irony.
Right.
And, the photo might be compelling.
Sure.
But it really doesn't reflect
the reality.
Yeah, the reality of Gwinnett's needs.
Okay, so maybe those buses aren't so empty after all.
Maybe not.
Gwinnett County's huge. It's sprawling. Lots of low-density development.
Right. It's not like
New York City.
Right.
Where you got people just crammed in there.
Exactly.
Like sardines.
Yeah.
And everybody's relying on...
public transportation.
Public transit.
Yeah.
Right. Gwinnett's different.
Different.
They need transit.
Right.
But it's different.
To give people options.
Options. Yeah. People who don't want to drive everywhere. Connect people to jobs, to services.
Right. Reduce congestion.
In certain areas.
In key corridors.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got Bobby's post about this empty bus.
Okay.
Which has sparked, of course, a whole debate in the comments.
Of course.
And Christy Jedshore jumps in.
Who's that?
And basically says that Bobby's plan for traffic is totally irrelevant.
How so?
Because he doesn't support the tax increase.
Oh, so you can't complain about traffic unless you're
going to pay for it.
Going to pay for it. Okay.
Right.
Interesting. It's like saying you can't complain about a flat tire unless you also happen to be a mechanic.
Oh, I like that. That's a good analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Or thankfully,
someone called them out.
Justin Walsh calls it out.
Okay, good.
And points out that ignoring the problem and offering no solutions is not a plan.
Not a plan.
Just because you don't like the proposed solution doesn't mean the problem
goes away. Yeah.
And who else chimes in?
Oh, I bet I know.
Lindsay Paul.
Lindsay
jumps back into this fray.
Oh, boy.
With a comment that on the surface seems pretty reasonable.
Okay.
She says, any plan is better than the null void we have at the moment within our area.
Sure.
But then she throws in this curveball.
Okay.
Did you know there is 0 plans in line to widen all these 2-lane agricultural roads within the DOT over the next 10 years?
Oh, my goodness.
So she's laser focused on
road widening. But not...
And completely ignoring the proposed transit projects that are on the table.
Selective information.
But honestly, widening roads is usually just like a...
Band-aid temporary. Yeah, temporary effects. You just end up with more cars on the road.
Which leads to...
more traffic.
More congestion.
It's a cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
A vicious cycle.
It's like trying to quench your thirst by drinking salt water.
Well, that's good.
It might feel like a solution.
In the moment.
But
ultimately.
But it just makes the problem worse.
Yeah.
And honestly, if Gwinnett County started widening every 2-lane road...
Oh, the environment.
We'd be looking at an environmental impact of epic proportions.
Yeah.
Trees would be falling faster than you can say traffic jam.
Faster than you can say traffic jam.
Okay, so we've got emotional appeals, logical fallacies, and selective information sharing.
It's a lot.
Is there any hope? For a reasonable discussion about transit in Gwinnett?
I don't know.
Well, don't forget, there are people like Jeremiah Klinecht.
Oh, yeah.
Who offer like a different perspective.
Okay.
He mentions that like Hungary.
Okay.
Has a really successful public transit system.
Okay.
And that it can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we don't have to reinvent the wheel here.
We don't.
There are models out there that work.
Exactly.
It's like looking beyond your own backyard.
Looking beyond, yeah. And saying like, hey...
Other people figured this out.
Other places have figured this out.
Maybe we can learn.
Maybe we can learn a thing or two from them.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So that brings us back to...
the real question.
The heart of it all.
Of this deep dive. How do we move past...
all this drama.
The drama, the misinformation.
The fighting.
And the personal attacks.
The negativity.
To have productive conversations about complex issues like transit.
Big question.
It is a tough question. But let's try to unpack it.
Okay.
Starting with like the most common argument against this referendum.
Which is?
The cost.
The cost.
That $17 billion tax burden.
Bobby Howard.
Bobby Howard mentioned.
Yeah.
So let's
break it down. Okay.
So first
of all,
that $17 billion.
That's over 30 years.
Is spread out over 30 years.
That's a long time.
That's a lot of time for the county to
grow.
For property values to increase.
Right.
And for the tax base to expand.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not like all $17 billion is coming out of
taxpayers' pockets.
Tomorrow.
No.
It's like a gradual
increase. Yeah.
Phased in.
Over time. Yeah.
So it's not some giant monster lurking under the bed.
I love that image.
Ready to gobble up everybody's paychecks?
No.
Not quite.
It's
more like a
long-term. Investment plan. Yeah.
With the potential.
Potential.
For significant returns.
In terms of what?
In terms of reduced traffic congestion.
Less traffic.
Improved air quality.
Better air.
And increased economic activity.
Jobs.
And don't forget, the sales tax increase isn't just about funding transit.
Right.
It's about investing.
In infrastructure.
And
jobs.
And creating jobs.
Yeah.
The official Gwinnett County website lists a whole bunch of
projects.
That would be funded by this transit.
Disabilist.
Including new transit facilities, park and ride, lots of improvements to existing infrastructure.
It's a whole revitalization.
Right.
Yeah.
And these projects would create construction jobs, engineering jobs.
Lots of jobs.
And potentially even new jobs in the transit sector.
Yeah, new industries even.
It's an investment in the long-term economic vitality.
Of the county. So
while the sticker price might seem high, it's important to think about
the picture.
The potential long-term benefits and like the broader economic impact.
Sure.
But let's be honest. The cost isn't the only thing fueling the opposition to this referendum.
You're right.
There's something else.
It's deeper.
Deeper at play here.
Something beyond just dollars and cents.
It's like this deeper layer of fear and distrust that's driving this conversation.
It's almost like...
And it's tied to this idea of government overreach, wasteful spending.
Oh, I heard that one.
And just general skepticism of anything that smacks of like...
Big government.
Big government.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really messy.
I was going to say.
Because those fears are often like exploited...
By politicians?
By politicians and special interest groups.
Who benefit from it.
Who benefit from keeping people...
Divided
and suspicious of any collective action.
Makes sense. Right.
It's easier to...
It's a lot easier to rally opposition to a specific...
project
or policy than it is to like engage in nuanced discussions
about the long term,
about long-term solutions that require like compromise and collaboration.
It's hard.
So where does that leave us? Good question.
Stuck in this cycle of outrage, misinformation, and political posturing
with no real
progress being made on a critical issue that affects everybody in Gwinnett County.
It's frustrating.
It is frustrating.
But don't forget,
we the voters.
We the voters.
We have the power.
We have the power.
To change the conversation.
Okay, how do we do that?
How do we do that? Well, by demanding more from our elected officials.
Right.
By holding them accountable for their words and actions. And by like engaging in these thoughtful, respectful dialogues.
With our neighbors.
Even when we
don't.
When we disagree.
Yeah.
So what's the first step in like...
In changing the conversation.
Yeah, changing this conversation.
Where do we begin? I think it starts with recognizing that this isn't just a Gwinnett County problem.
This is happening everywhere.
This political drama, the misinterpretations.
The fear-mongering.
Yeah, fear-mongering, all of it.
It's everywhere.
It's a national phenomenon.
It's exhausting.
It really is, and it's fueled by
social media
algorithms
that reward outrage.
Yeah, that reward outrage and division.
It's like we're addicted to the drama.
We are.
And politicians know how to
push those buttons.
Push our buttons to get our attention.
For sure.
And it's so hard to just like focus on
the issues.
On the actual issues and to have like
real
productive conversations about solutions.
I think you're so busy arguing about these empty buses and misconstrued emails.
Right.
That we forget about what's important.
That we forget about the big picture.
That Gwinnett needs a better transit system.
Yeah.
And this referendum, flawed as it may be.
Right.
It's at least trying to fix it.
At least trying to address the problem.
Right. And that's where critical thinking comes in.
Yeah.
We need to step back from all of the emotions. Yeah. And ask ourselves...
The tough questions.
Tough questions like, is this information accurate?
What are the sources?
Yeah. Who benefits from this? From this message?
Right.
And what are the consequences?
Yeah. What are the consequences of
action and inaction?
Of doing something and doing nothing.
Yeah.
So how do we apply that to this situation in Gwinnett?
Let's go back to Lindsay
Paul.
And how she reacted to the email.
Right. She interpreted the request for voter data
as a direct attack on Chuck.
Right.
And it just led to all of this chaos.
This cascade of accusations and insinuations about corruption.
But if you look at the email
right.
and Matthew's explanations,
it's pretty clear that Lindsay
misread the situation.
Yeah. So was it an honest mistake or was it
deliberate?
Deliberate. That's the question, isn't it?
I don't know. It's impossible to know.
We don't know what's going on in Lindsay's head.
What was going on in her mind? But we know about the political climate.
Right.
We know about misinformation and fear-mongering and how certain groups benefit from it.
So it's possible that Lindsay...
Playing into that? Yeah.
Maybe intentionally, maybe not.
Right.
But either way...
She believed it.
She believed that email was a threat.
Right.
Right, and whether she meant to or not.
Her actions had consequences.
Yeah, they did.
They distracted from the issues.
Created more division.
And maybe damaged Matthew's reputation.
Right. It's a reminder that our words have power.
Words are powerful.
Especially online.
We
have a responsibility to be careful about what we share.
And how we interpret information.
For
sure.
We can't just believe everything we see.
You got to be skeptical.
Check our sources.
Check your sources, yeah.
Consider different perspectives.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, we need to remember that
the people we disagree with
are still our neighbors.
They're still our neighbors.
We might not agree on everything.
You're right.
But we all want what's best for our community.
I think so.
Right.
And that's where we can find common ground.
That's where we can start to build bridges and have
real conversations.
conversations about how to solve these problems.
Yeah, traffic, housing, education.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
It's not.
It's going to take effort.
It's going to take work.
Patience, a willingness to listen to each other.
It'll be worth it.
But it's worth it because
the alternative is just
division and distrust and stagnation.
Nobody wants that.
So as you go about your day, think about what you learned from this deep dive.
Into Gwinnett County.
Be
mindful of the information that you consume.
Right.
Be skeptical of those crazy headlines.
Yeah.
And be willing to talk to people that
disagree with you.
Yeah.
Because the future of Gwinnett County
and the future of our democracy
depends on all of us coming together.
Finding common ground.
And working towards solutions
that benefit everyone.